So there I was, eagerly chipping away at the soil and the mud, wondering to myself what treasures Mother Nature may bestow upon me today, when suddenly, oh my Arceus, we hit the mother lode, and be still my beating heart. I had uncovered something miraculous, something hitherto undreamt of by mortal man. I am of course talking about fossils, ancient relics, signs of pre-modern man, all of which have but one thing in common. They're cool as hell.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
And they've also helped to kind of keep the History Channel afloat since the mid-2000s. That too. So greetings, bienvenue, come on in, sit on down, as we venture into looking at those ancient relics that make my brain go brrr. The only problem is that for the last few generations, we've been drastically missing out on fossils, and with Generation 10 taking us to the Indonesian Polynesian Islands, it feels like we're not gonna get them there either. And true, Karalis did bring us those odd mismatched creatures in Galar, but our true, typical, and as we've come to know them fossils, have been missing for 10 years. Can you wrap your head around that? 10 years! Our actual fossil Pokemon are getting closer to being actual dinosaurs year by year. So I have to wonder, what more Pokemon would look like from the past if we were to reinvigorate them with those sticky juices of revitalization, with the essential energies of revitalization. And luckily for you and for me, I found just the thing to do so. So without much further ado, let's hop right into today's video.
Hey, you need to rock it, okay? It's what we do.
So meet the Archadex. It's a fancy little tool that researchers say functioned as an early form of Pokédex, recording information on ancient and long-dead Pokémon. Within its center lies a gem of untold mysticism that allowed scholars to access this dino DNA. So let's tug on a strand and see what we might reveal about our Poke past. I love fossil Pokemon because I feel like they harken back to simpler times. Aerodactyl? That's just a pterodactyl with more steps. Kabuto? That's just your typical trilobite mixed with some horseshoe crab DNA. Ammonite? Literally just an ammonite, but I never talk negatively about our Lord Helix. That reminds me, back in 2014 there was this trend going on called Twitch Plays Pokemon. Maybe you've heard of it. This was a setup wherein multiple people could control a single character in Pokemon Red by inputting commands in Twitch chat. Accomplishing anything seemed infinitely impossible when you're controlled by an army of thousands. I mean, I only have 26 voices rattling around in here, and even that feels like too many. But through trial and tribulation, Twitch Plays Pokemon was able to resurrect the Helix fossil, thus spurring on the following of our Lord Helix. The design is simple, it's fun, it's free, and it's easy, and I want this Pokemon to fit kind of the same vibe. And so pulling the defensive DNA of this Pokemon from the Archadex meant we'd get to reconstruct this guy. And oh boy, am I glad we did. We landed on turning the much-loved Ankylosaurus into a Pokemon. I love these guys for their bony plates, their thwacking tails, and their overall vibe that they bring to the function. They're like if turtles were dinosaurs and mean to you, and I love that in a lady. I knew that I wanted to go wide because it's not a look that we see very often in Pokemon, especially fossil Pokemon. Armaldo stands up. Kabutops stands up. Cradily does its best. I mean, you'd think of any fossil Pokemon to be wide and low to the ground, it'd be Caracosta, but nope, that turtle be standin'. So let's build out this guy to have a nice low body with spikes protruding from either side to really exaggerate those proportions just a bit more. I like to think of these Pokemon as the tanks of the dinosaur world, and so wanted to infuse a little bit of that militaristic vibe by making the head armor look more like that of an army helmet. Beyond that, I really like the early generations look at fossil Pokemon, where they're fairly close to their inspiration, and that Sugimori art style just made Pokemon in whole feel rugged and foreign to the modern Pokemon world. Every Pokemon kind of felt like a dinosaur in that art style, and that was kind of the point. So here's our boy Ankyloton.
Ankyloton, the spike shell Pokemon. It's believed that these Pokemon were heavily nomadic, with their hardy exteriors allowing them to pass through typically dangerous areas. Their wide stance made them perfect for blocking paths, and ushering more hostile Pokemon out of their way.
The name brings in that Ankylo prefix, meaning stiff, bent, crooked, or fused or joined together. And you can tell from the lack of segments over the shell area that movement was not this Pokemon's strongest suit. The name also brings in the term kiloton, a unit of explosive power reaching 1,000 tons. Makes sense, as these guys could survive even the heaviest of blows. But to be honest, that's just a typical dinosaur turned into a typical dinosaur Pokemon. So let's get real freaky with the Helicoprion. Man, it really feels like back in these days we were just mushing bones together and hoping something came out. The name sounds a little like helicopter, which makes sense because despite what you may think, helicopter does not break down to helle and copter, but instead to helico, like the word fragment found in this dinosaur's name, and meaning spiral or coiled, as well as the term patur, like pterodactyl. But clearly these guys aren't known for their flying ability, but instead for their award-winning smiles. If those awards were for freakiest and most off-putting. Congrats, your dentist must be proud. So I looked at how we could turn this freaky and terrifyingly off-putting shark into a Pokemon, and I have to admit, it wasn't easy. Not only are we mushing two concepts together, but we're also trying to find a way to make those concepts make sense with our initial inspiration, which it feels like it absolutely doesn't. So, trials and tribulations. Clearly, we want to expand on the circular jaw aspect and make it feel oh so much more like a Pokemon. And actually, the design of the anime character Chainsaw Man played a big part in that. For those unfamiliar with Chainsaw Man, you have already learned everything you need to know about his design aesthetic just by reading his name. He's Chainsaw, he's man, and he's won the hearts of millions. Only thing is, this isn't a chainsaw, it's more like a buzzsaw. No, Macho Man Randy Savage, I said buzzsaw. Sometimes also called a circular saw, but with Chainsaw Man at my side, I know this may feel difficult, but it's not impossible. I mean, Pokemon like Whirlipede can get that spinning cylinder of death vibe, and no one complains. So why not try to take an attempt in the same direction here? So here's Buzzwork.
Grooves carved along undersea rock faces have been seen as evidence of this Pokemon's existence in ancient times. Their circular saw-like noses allow them to access areas that would be inaccessible to other Pokemon, and create long and narrow caverns that even aquatic Pokemon of today can call home.
The name is a play on buzz and shark, while also bringing in the phrase bulwark, meaning a defensive wall. You know, like the kind that this guy tears down, or adversely, like what it would feel like to have this thing slowly closing in on you. Neat and traumatic. But ancient and long dead sharks are shark-like creatures are only one of our many problems. See, some of our modern Pokemon like Sharpedo and Quillfish are actually current predecessors of long dead Pokemon designs, like Ikari. This shark never made it past the cutting room floor in its typical design, but I'm looking to change that today. You see, a few years back, we had a tremendous leak of Pokemon beta designs. Some were expanded even further into Pokemon that we have now today. Others were toned down to better fit that Pokemon aesthetic.
I exist now only in your nightmares.
Some were even dropped into the abyss entirely, never to see the light of day until now. See, of all of the designs we've seen, some actually feel like they could have been Pokemon, and Ikari falls right into that category. Only one teensy weensy little problem. this guy was intended for the simpler and more aerodynamic generations, whereas current Pokemon generations have a bit more heft to them. Fins, spines, hair.
Shapes and colors the likes of which I've never seen.
So let's beef up this shark chainy of an aquatic predator for something like Gen 10. But Stern, I hear you ask, what do sharks and chains have in common? Well, not a lot, but also quite a bit. You see, Pokemon names, at least in the Japanese variation, tend to be closer to just words that we know, whereas in America, we translate those to be a little bit more twisted and weird and nuanced in different ways. Let me give you an example. See, in America, Pokemon have names that allude to their inspiration like Ghastly or Haunter, but in Japan, these names are a little clearer as Ghosts and Ghost. So, Ikari is no different, with the term translating in English as anger, mean-spirited, or anchor. And yeah, look at him, that's an anchor. So I wanted to capture the same type of feel here, and I'm thinking we did pretty well. I added a little color to the face too as a focal point, as well as making it much more like a combination of an anchor and a torpedo. It's this weird balance of dynamic between stopping and going, and I really wanted to play that into the design here. So I give you Ikari.
Ikari, the anchor Pokemon. When they sleep, they bury their noses in the sand, making them appear as abandoned ship anchors. But when at full speed through the ocean current, they can move as quick as torpedoes. Despite their small frame, these Pokemon can carry quite a punch, weighing over 800 kilos.
I love the idea of these little miscreants swimming about through the sea and making their homes in ship graveyards so as to remain undetected. Maybe they could have a fun ability to shoot themselves out of the metallic casing, but I'll leave that up to you guys since abilities are much more your speed than mine. Like Chicken TV, who gave us a rundown on abilities from our amazing Digital Circuses Pokemon video. Also, Chicken TV is just a great name, don't ever change. So while working on this video, I started thinking to myself, how cool would it be to have an ancient relic just in the background of the video? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be absolutely something? So I started searching online, figuring out where I could find some historic relic, and things didn't go well. It says priceless. I'm assuming that means free? Turns out no, the opposite in fact. You can't just buy ancient historical relics online. Something about them belonging in a museum and people quoting Indiana Jones. Regardless, I did find this cool wood hammer thing that's actually like a knot of a tree that grew around like a fence post. That was pretty cool, got that at a thrift store. Other thing was I got a little card that whenever I read it, it causes all of the furniture in my house to spontaneously combust. So that was pretty cool. But apart from that, yeah, nothing much. So let's get back to the video. Now, I've been doing this channel for about 2 years now, but prior to that, I was still drawing Fakemon. The amount of trees that I imagine must have been cut down for the amount of printer paper that I used drawing Pokemon on my parents' living room coffee table must be astounding. But we got Pokemon out of it, so it's all good now, right? Right? Well, when I first started doing YouTube, even before the official launch of the Sterninator brand, I brought in this guy. So with this design, I kind of knew the direction that I wanted to go. I wanted to have an electric dragon that felt pseudo-legendary without being overcomplicated. I'm a big Gen 3 person, and I feel like that's kind of where my style fits in. His name was Gildagon, and he was an electric dragon Pokemon. This was my first Fakemon drawing on the channel, and it holds a special place in my heart. So when looking at ancient and forgotten Pokemon, I really feel like this one fits right in, at least for me. But this design could use a little bit of a punch-up since I first drew it 3 years ago. I've learned a lot since then, and I want to be able to throw that onto this design. That was kind of the experiment that I was going into with this look. It was my experiment on if I could make this Pokemon thing a real thing, and a lot of you showed up. And you proved to me that, yeah, I could make something. And then that something could become a channel. And then that channel could become a community. And that community would become an ability for me to leave my job and do this full time, like a crazy person would. And I wanted to revamp what felt like going back to that younger version of me, telling him, hey buddy, you can do this. You can be kinder to yourself and grow up to be the person that you wish could have saved you in your own times of trouble. I may have made this design on YouTube only 3 years ago, but it really means to me the conception of this channel and everything we, being you and I, have been able to accomplish since then. If there were an ancient Pokemon of mine that I'd want to bring back, it would be this guy, because he means so much more than just a Pokemon design to me. True, he's not ancient in the way of being based on any specific dinosaur or fossil, but he's ancient in the way of this channel couldn't exist without this guy. Technically, he's the first Pokemon drawing that I did for the channel, and everything that we have now came from that initial video. As simple and weird and low budget as it was the first. So here is once again Gildagon.
Gildagon, the shock and awe Pokemon. Legends tell that the roaring of thunder is the cry of this Pokemon as it whirls its body into a storm cloud. Its tail functions as a grounding agent that can peer through these clouds and touch the ground to release this pent-up energy, with many onlookers believing it to be just another lightning strike. To see this Pokemon in the wild is a sign of good fortune, shining through the bad circumstances that a trainer may find themselves in.
Gildagon's name comes from gilding, which is the process of applying gold leaf to a material, but here is a reference to its golden coloring. Since the original design, I've added some color to break up sections of the build. But let me know, do you prefer the original design or the newer? I'd love to revisit this guy with other forms, pre-evolutions, or the like, but that's kind of up to you. So if you like the video, and if you've made it this far in, odds are you do, then like the video. And subscribe for more content and to be updated for when we see Gildagon again in, I don't know, another 3 years. So who is your favorite? Who are you bringing back to life? And who are you making stay dead? Let me know down in the comments below, and hey, on the way down there, maybe stop by the description where you can find various opportunities to support the channel. One such opportunity is by becoming a Patreon supporter. Right now, I've recently turned on the option that you can pay for a full year of support in one quick and easy go. It also gives you a discount on that support while allowing you to have your name show up in videos, get early access to those videos, and get high resolution images plus Photoshop file drops every single month. Really cool stuff. You can also become a YouTube member by checking out the channel, but with all of that said, it sounds like you know where to find me, and if anything does happen to me within the next coming months, just know it's probably in the backyard. Use this same technology to bring me back to life so that we can keep on doing this. I love you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!
Yo, he's the Sterninator, commission terminator, it's beautiful work. I'm choked up like Darth Vader. If you hating on my man, you not a smart hater. He'll draw anything from Digital Circus to Arc Raiders. Poppy's playtime, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Five Nights at Freddy's Shoot. He drew the whole team. His blends of Pokemon with loads of franchises. If you listening to this, guess you know where to find him.